Namaste and welcome to another episode of Itihasdhir. The book that we are reviewing today is Eminent, Historians, and we have with us Utpal Kumar, sir. Now,
Thank you.
sir is an opinion editor at News 18 and First Post. You would have read multiple articles and pieces by him. And if you haven't yet purchased the book, please do go ahead and get your copies. And by the end of this episode, you will realize exactly why we are saying this. So I give the floor to Aditya to start with the questions.
Hi, sir. First of all, it is a pleasure being here with you today. Um, so we've read the earlier work that came out, and then we've read Eminent Distorians. First of all, a little, so could you explain what Distorians exactly means? Because that is a term that most of us are not familiar with. And secondly, there's another book written by Mr. Arun Shuri that was entitled Eminent Historians. They're questioning their line, their methodology. And essentially, is there any sort of connection that you try to build, or did that book sort of inspire you to write yours? What is the story behind that, sir?
I'll start with the second part, the second question. I don't think anybody will say that he was not inspired by Arun Shuri and his work. Though today, when one reads Savarkar book, some are feeling not too happy about it, including me. By my review, I think Mr. Shuri himself gave it right, left. He was not happy about that. But that apart, that the person is a legend. No one can take away what he has done for our culture, for our history. And he will always remain important. He will always remain the most important person. In fact, in this book is a tribute to him and his work. I've mentioned in my introduction also that it's a kind of an extension of a historian. What I did, and he wrote his book two decades back, when still this so-called eminent historians had some sense of respectability left. In over the 2 decades time, they have lost even that kind of respectability, and now they're actually more like distorians. So I want to say what exactly they are and what they do, and they have actually, to be fair, they have just distorted Indian history. Like Indian history is, even today, unfortunately, we are just trying to correct it individually. They not a very systematic, they institutional effort to correct our history. Perspective. We have still not, but individual efforts have been done, whether Vikram Sampath is doing, or Abhas is doing, many other people are their way. So mine is very small effort, right, to make to bring out Bharat history from this country's own perspective. Unfortunately, that has not been the case till now. Still, Bharat history is written and set from the perspective of outsiders. Most of them were invaders. So yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you. Abhi, recently, Rakhi Kadi was in news a lot, and there were a lot of. So I had the privilege of visiting Rakhi Kadi ka site, and so one of the members with me, we put forward this question to the archaeologists there that for Harappa we have so much data, but there's like the written inscriptions are not like deciphered yet, and for the Vedic culture apparently we don't have any archaeological evidence, but there's so much written culture, and it kind of coincides with the chapter where you've talked about how Harappa and the Vedic age were like the two sides of the same coin. But this idea, it's been ingrained in our mindsets in such a manner that even an archaeologist, like, he laughed it off. For him, it was like, अरे ऐसे नहीं, वो Harappans were very civilized. Harappans तो बहुत civilized थे. Vedic age तो गवारों का age था, मतलब like गांव का age था.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any cleaning and all this. Like, how does one counter that? Like, because if you go, and why is there so much? Is it because it's coming from a brown person that you don't want to accept it? I also had,
yeah. I'll say that we've been testing for so many. Yes, I think it's now can say centuries also, that we tend to believe it, and I don't blame people. we are born with that, and so it's very difficult to say, no, how can it happen? I've read in childhood. Everyone talks about that, but everyone, at one point talked about that Earth is the center of the universe. Today we don't believe that. So somewhere the start has to be made. The start was made. In fact, since 1990s, early 90s, a lot of ground has been covered by Indic writers, intellectuals, and today, for instance, our invasion / migration. Now they don't call. They don't call. Rabindranath Tagore doesn't call it invasion theory. Now she calls it migration. So even they have kind of gone back. In fact, now they are so back that they're completely defensive. They are changing their goalposts every third day. So they will first started with the language thing, then they went into some other. Now they talk about genetics. So genetics is a new buzzword among them, but nothing. They don't have any base. In fact, genetic if they quote two studies saying that people came from outside, I can cite for last 10,000 years people were staying here. So that I don't want to go into that intellectual argument. That's really silly. Just for 2 seconds, just think about a very commonsensical point of view. Uh, Tell me one civilization, one culture that was as evolved as Harappans, and they willingly adopted the language of an illiterate immigrants called Aryans. Give me one example. Even today, like Bangladesh is Islamized, but they talk Bengali. Language is a very sticky subject. They don't change. It takes I don't. It is the hardest thing to get rid of. And here, a far sophisticated civilization willingly within I think within century within hardly time accepts another language and owns it as own. What happened to their language? Any sophisticated civilization will only be sophisticated when they have got a good written language. And Sanskrit falls into the place. That's why I call it the two sides of the same coin. Now, the other thing I'll tell you, commonsensical thing. We don't ask the very commonsensical thing from these so-called historians or so-called historians. Is that why is there not a single mention in our literary book about we coming from outside? Now, and when I'm saying a lot of responsibility, that most civilizations, most people who have come from outside, they have a long memory. They remember, like even Iranians, Persians, they still remember that they came from India. Avesta says that they came from India. You read the literature or whatever is left of red Indians, Incas and all these things. They all remember that they came from some other place and they came here. India is the only place where we keep on harping that no, this is our Punya Bhumi. Still we are going to no, Baba. You came from outside, so where is they know record? Where is archaeological record? They know archaeological record, but you came from outside. So my point is, we have to and look at this. Even archaeologically, today we know for sure that right? How come Saraswati died 400 or 500 years before came, and Saraswati becomes our for this Saraswati becomes the mother of all rivers. I mean, where they sit so drunk that they didn't realize that in that river not or already dying. Read Rig Veda. Saraswati is called mightiest of where you can't see the other. So my point is they before that. So all these things before that. Now the record we are about. There was and this is archaeological record. There was a kingdom called Mitannis, Kingdom of Mitanni in West Asia, where the writing was found, where kings are invoking Indra and Varun and all these gods. In Mitanni civilization in 1300 1400 BC. Now, when their language is studied upon of the Mitanni record, their language is closer to the post later Vedic period literature and not the early Vedic period. Now that's interesting. If we came from outside, then our pre-Vedic period literature or language should have been closer to them and not the later Vedic period. So these are very fundamental things. We don't ask them very the fundamental thing, and they will confuse us with very technical stuff. genetics, this, that. And that's why I don't even talk. I said, okay, you give me 2 genetic ideas, I'll give you 5 reports and we'll say the opposite. So let's not go. Let's ask very simple, commonsensical questions. And these are very commonsensical questions. And they don't have answers for that.
So I have a question connected to what you just said, and there are 3 parts to it. So Aditi will have to bear me just a little bit. So first is why this sort of, so firstly we've seen for example 1989 the West Bengal government, its circular that it releases that Muslim rule should never attract any criticism, destruction of temples by Muslim rulers and invaders should not be mentioned. We see in Dr. Vikram Sampat's latest work about Tipu Sultan, in S.L. Bhairappaji's foreword, he talks about how, he asks whether, why, so I'll quote the chairman of the NCERT committee of the philosophy of education. So G. Parthasarthi ji says, Ghazni Muhammad looted the Somnath temple. Aurangzeb built mosques by demolishing the temples in Kashi and Mathura. He collected jizya, etc. How do such useless facts help build a strong India other than creating hatred in their minds? And when S.L. Bhairappa asked, but they are historical truths, he was replied with, plenty of historical truths are there. To use these truths with discrimination is the wisdom of the historians. Can we hurt the feelings of the minority? Can we divide the society? Can we sow the seeds of poison? And we've seen this sort of a bubble that has been created around us as readers of history. So my first question is, why this sort of a narrative was considered important to be built in the first place? Secondly, why is it breaking today? As you said, we've switched from AIT, Aryan invasion theory, to the migration theory. Or we have switched from saying, oh, Kashi Vishwanath did not exist on Gyanvapi land at all, to Mr. Habib now saying that, oh, a temple was there, but what is the need to reclaim it? Something like that. And the third point that is very connected to that is the vicious catch-22 circle of, one left historian quoting another as proof, and history readers not going back all the way to see that the first person to have said this actually had none. So this vicious circle of quoting people around. So these 3 questions: why did it happen in the first place? How is it breaking? And the vicious circle.
I think it's fantastic. I'll start again from the third, because third is a very interesting thing, that they quote each other very beautifully. They have mastered the art of quoting each other. So there is a story in my book also. Aditi must have read that in the introduction itself, where American researcher Y.C. Rosser, early 2080, see, comes to India, and at that time, at the fate would have been, one of the eminent historians of the time, Harbans Mukhia, wrote an article in Hindustan Times, and saying the same thing about that how Hindus. Now that's the second stage of the argument. So I'll explain you why. So at that time, our eminent historians have moved from that first denial that whether Muslims have destroyed anything, and this was the second stage where they said, okay, Muslims have destroyed, but but Hindus have destroyed too. So this was the second stage of their argument, when first stage faltered badly. So I'm talking about the second stage, and I'll again explain the first stage later. So he writes that, okay, fine, Muslims did, break few temples here and there, but so did Hindus. So what is there? And there are so many records of that. So this lady, American lady, goes to him and asks me, okay, sir, but where is the record? Can you share the record? Because I'm doing some research on that. The great eminent historian again, I said, oh, okay, but I don't have. But it's a known fact, but I don't have the fact. But I know that, Romila Thapar has all the facts. So this lady diligently now goes to Romila Thapar and asks, can you share the proof of what you have written? This great lady again says, no, but I don't have to. But I know for sure that American historian, Richard Eaton, has all the records. Interestingly, now this is where the leftist trickery comes. Romila Thapar in 1969, along with the very Harbans Mukhia and Bipin Chandra, had written a book, Communalism and the Writing of Indian History, in 1969, where she had said the same thing, Now look at this. He wrote the same things almost like 40 years, or maybe 30, 35 years back, saying that Hindus have destroyed temple. And about 3 decades later, he said, I don't have any record. Some Mr. Eaton has some record, and please go and ask him. So this is how they invent. They quote each other, and you go, and most of us, unfortunately, we don't even go and cross-question it. So like the way, and I'll just try to remember, like, yesterday, a couple of days back, Barkha was doing an interview with my great, intellectual, Arun Sorry, and where Arun said that this reviewer had not read the book, and she didn't even ask Arun Sorry that, but he has quoted you extensively. So it gets a very fixed match sometimes. Sometimes it also becomes what you call lazy intellectual rigor. So no one asked her. So it kept on happening. Now I'll come to now your first question and second question together. See, story didn't start at that time in after independence. Actually, story started well before independence, 1920s and 30s, and one of the proponents was the father of our own Irfan Habib, the great Irfan Habib. The father was Muhammad Habib. He started everything beautifully, and at that time, the story was not even that whether Muslims have destroyed temples. The story was that when Muslims came, it was such a egalitarian, equalitarian, whatnot religion that all the lower classes of Hinduism just rushed with all hands up and said, "Please, I want to convert." This is written. You read, you may be feeling about what I'm talking about. Please read Muhammad Habib. Please read K. Nizami. I've written some of this. I've quoted him in my book also. They have actually written this, that Hinduism was so oppressive that when they got an alternative in Islam, they all were so excited that they jumped from their house and they converted at one go. There is no record, nothing. In fact, you read Case Lal's book. He's done extensive research on that. He says that actually the so-called lower caste fought more valiantly than even some of the martial classes of India. I'll not name the martial classes. They fought. So for me, that's what they are our pillars. They are our strong pillars and these people just inverted the history altogether. Then what happened when things got really exposed? भैया ऐसा तो हुआ नहीं था. So then they said, okay, ऐसा नहीं हुआ था, लेकिन चलो, Muslims didn't destroy. Yes, Somnath happened, but it's problem of the Somnath priests and all these people. Why? What was the need to keep so much of wealth in temple? Temple is for prayers. Temple is not for opulence and all things. They didn't even realize that our temples were not just a place of worship. Our temples were also a place where temples would give a lot of money to the dangerous mercantile trade, overseas trade, which was most dangerous in those times. And they were the one who provide. They were the one who will make roads, and they will make the tanks and everything. They will also work on our culture, dances, and education. So they were the thing. It was a truly a dharmic economy. In that way, Dharmanomics, one of the book has come with that name. And so they didn't realize. They thought that mandir mein to wahan gaye, puja kiye and aa gaye. And that's how most other religions do. So they started blaming the very institution, saying that, okay, if you keep so much of wealth, unnecessary wealth, when most of the poor masses are poor, someone will come and rob you. So that's how they should turn. The reality is that when Mahmud of Ghazni came, he was offered by our press and everyone, please take everything, but don't destroy the Sivlinga. Please leave it alone. What he does, he said, if I do it, my fame as a Ghazi will vanish. So he took the Sivling, breaks it into pieces, and some of them he sends in West Asia and other places. Yeah, Makkah and other places, and was put in the front of the gate, where everyone can just walk through it and just kick it with their feet or whatever it is. So this is how they distort, and that's why they should be called historians. They shouldn't be called historians now. They were actual historians in more sense than one. Later, what happened then? Another stage comes. That's a third stage of it, where Romila Thapar and the gang comes into the existence, and they says beautifully, okay, fine, they destroyed, though the destruction was very minimal, but then Hindus also did that. Why just bicharam, some Mahmud Ghazni and Aurangzeb? Why are just bringing them out? Because everyone else did it, and they will cite them 3-4 examples, and I quoted those examples. like King Harsha of Kashmir. In Kalhan Sarangani, he is called Turushka, someone who behaves like Turk. And he has actually kept Turks in his army. So my point is, if you tell half truths, yeah, of course he destroyed, but he destroyed not for the destruction of the murti, but for the money. And anyway, there can be some idiot, mindless guy who can do whatever. That can't be projected as a story of the entire society. But that's what they do. Now, another story into this Hindu destruction myth. In the down south, in battle between Chalukyas and Cholas and all these things, some temples were indeed destroyed. We should accept it. But again, there's a twist. The twist is that if you read our tradition, the legitimacy of king
Comes
is
from
put
the
yes in the idol, the murti hoti hai, main murti, uspe they put it there. So what king does when a king wins another kingdom, what he will do, he will go with all respect, all reverence, take out that murti and take it with all pomp and whatever respect needed to that. And then that mandir will be, after murti is gone, that is just a building. That temple will be destroyed, but that temple is kind of legitimizing the king, which is the guy is no more there. And then they will destroy it and take this to their kingdom and build a bigger temple, much bigger temple, in their name or any other person name, and install it there. Is it temple destruction? But then literally they destroyed it. But then that's where that's where the trick happened, and that's what they do, and that's what the story is all about.
At this point, I think our readers should be advised that they should read not only Utpal Sir's book, but there's another called Negationism in India by Dr. Conrad Els. And
Yes.
I mean, anyone who reads the history of the Maharanas and why they took on the title of Rana instead of Maharaja, which they considered Ekling Naths to be. Uh, yes.
In
Aditi,
fact,
please.
I'll give you another
Yes,
example.
yes.
Since you talk about Vikram Sampath's new book on Tipu
Tipu.
Sultan, there is he deals with another trick, which most of the historians use. That okay, everything is fine, but Marathas were all Hindu, they're Samrats, but then they also destroyed in Sringeri. They went there, the troops destroyed everything. The thing that they were Pindaris. Now again, no, we don't go into details. Everything lies in detail, and they're very smart. And 90% don't. We just say, okay, ये तो Maratha की army. They were Pindaris, consisting of most of the Muslim soldiers, and for which later Peshwa apologized. Now
Yes.
look at this is what the story is, but then we don't know. So we sometimes we start apologizing. Oh, sorry, yeah, कुछ तो दिक्कत है. I think we need to know more. Thankfully, things are improving.
So, speaking of stories that are put up even till date, let's say a few people will know of a specific aligned headspace, the ones who are actually aligned with the Indic mindset. They would know that Ashoka had converted to Buddhism like way prior to the Kalinga War. But there's this itch that is there to put it out कि इतना खून खराबा देख के then he wanted to be peaceful, so he became a Buddhist. And in a way, it's almost like an intentional maligning. Same goes with this obsession of the white man's theory ka obsession कि if the white person says something, if the white person has said कि नहीं, this was the great revolt था ये तो 1857 का, and then if Savarkar is standing there and he is like, no, this was the first war of independence, like we still, even in our books, I've been a student of history, oh, distorted history, we were taught नहीं नहीं वो revolt था क्योंकि तो like no one wanted to like join hands, you know.
The point
In
used to
fact,
be.
Yeah.
in fact, I was reading this excerpt. So, Mr. Conrad's upcoming book, he shared the book just like for, like bits and pieces. So, he was talking, like, I was having a conversation with him about it. He said that when he came to the Ram Mandir and he gave his verdict, so there was also Minakshi Jain ma'am, there was also KK Mohammed sir, but when Conrad sir said, कि हाँ यहाँ पे टेम्पल के रेमिनेंस है, he's like, it was this obsession कि a white man has said this, so it just gave vigor to the movement, and he's like, there are already two other people who are saying this.
Yeah.
I don't know how does one like break out of this.
It,
This
it will, I think, take time. But one of the first book which I read, on Aryan Vision is almost like 28 years back, 28 years back, was by David Frawley. And again, we understand that name really fascinated. Okay, and then of course Conrad's Cynic Studies was one of the first few books. First I started with all Ramila Thapas of the world. That's why I wanted to do on history major. So and then I was convinced that what they're writing is right. But when I came across other side, where I started reading, books from these people and other other Indic this thing, I realized that that they actually distortion already in the thing. But yeah, it's so that our society is still not completely decolonized in mindset. We still, but it's changing. It's changing fast. You see, simple thing. I've seen. I'm a very avid cricket, especially longer format test match. I watch match quite closely, especially when it's between big teams like in Australia or whether the competition is good. Uh, I see from 90s. So I'm seeing it from that time. 90s, the way we to deal with Australian players or English players. Look how we now deal with them. Now, actually, we are Australian. They like Indians in many ways. So, with our economic might and opening of our mind, things are changing. And things are changing. Frankly speaking, when I was doing a master's in Delhi University, I would not find anybody of my age or something talking about things which we are discussing right now. Today, in fact, a few months back when I went there in Delhi University and a few other colleges, I now find many students who talk about that, and they're not ashamed about. They're not apologetic about it. They're absolutely convinced that okay, this has happened, which is a good sign. Intellectually, intellectually, we have not still conquered it. They still like establishment उनका है, but ये है कि already reach has been made. It will take a long time. It will take some time more.
because most of it, like we still rely on the works of the greats like Sitaram sir and Swaroop sir, and we are producing a lot of literature, a lot of history, a lot of sources, but uski legitimacy is still under question. Like I mean, officially हमें उसमें नहीं पढ़ा जाएगा. Like when I was doing history, we were given Thapar and Basham. Second year में we were given that Basham का ही वो history of India का उसका जो part 2 है, it was written by some
Rizvi, S.A. Rizvi.
Rizvi. Then we were
Yeah.
given Rizvi, and third year में we were given Sharma उनका
अच्छा, हाँ. Yeah.
ठीक है, and that's it. Like this, and you were supposed to mug up, and everyone is quoting everyone. Now, if you come and you say something like this, and more importantly, we need teachers who are actually in the right headspace to teach all this also, because often the teachers come up and like
No, the problem is something else. Problem is as a group, institution, or whatever say nationalist government is there, powerful government is there, they have not done much on that front. From the government side also, we have to do something. We have not. What we have done so far is on an individual basis. आपने किया, मैंने किया, विक्रम ने किया, दो चार लोगों ने और किया. It's not going to the what they're teaching in Delhi University or JNU. They're not teaching my book or Vikram's book. They're still teaching the old book because we have not cracked it. In fact, just last month or so, one of those videos went viral where this one of this IS institute, some lady was teaching about how Islam was great and everything, and everyone was slashing her कि इसे कुछ नहीं आता. नहीं boss, उसे सब आता है. वही she teaching. I guess she teaching in IS, not teaching intellectual. Not crack the civil service. And if a person my book, he will fail in the very first attempt. Very first, he will get big zero because we have not cracked there. We have not gone there. We have not done anything. So what that person was doing, she's taking money to produce an IS for civil servant. She's trying to do her job. We completely got it wrong, and we got it excited. I read one person, very high profile person. He said, "I'm giving 1 crore rupees if she comes to debate with me." She will not come to debate with you. She is doing a simple job. He said her mandate is to make one capable enough to crack the IS exam. And that's what you need there. We even fail to understand that. We have not cracked it. We are still in our schools, in our colleges, in our academia, we still are teaching the same thing. And we have and you talked about white men. I'll tell you, I reviewed Dalrymple's book in my platform, first post. It went really well. It almost went viral. But tell what happened after, where I questioned that his intent and everything. Where he basically puts Buddhism and now negates Hinduism. It's very interesting. You read the book, you'll find out. Now there are a couple of think tanks, very high-profile think tanks. They invited him for a talk at their place. They are very happy. So my point is, we need to first understand what we are doing. I'm sorry, many people will not like what I've said, but that's the truth. We have not done institutionally. We have not, until the time we don't do, and that's the problem with Indic people. We are very happy doing our work, but when it comes to promoting each other's work, we just go away. If I send a link to, this is my book, do something, they will send me back, oh, thank you, great work. But they will not. They've got 5 lakh followers. They will not even put on Twitter and say something or do something. But they do. They do. I know many of them do. But I think we have to learn. We are still new into that world. We have to learn that trick. So I'm still optimistic about that.
So, as you said, I mean, as a student, I remember we obviously were told there's some, sort of choosing also, choosing your heroes and choosing your devils. And on some level, that choice is already made for us because, I mean, at one point, ICHR, the Indian Council for Historical Research, was also dominated by our great historians. So, I mean, they chose that, Ghaznavids and the Ghaznavid and the Ghoris will be the villains and the Mughals will be the heroes. And so we were taught, that so and so they came and they broke the temple of Somnath 17 times. Cool. But then when you go one step ahead, we are not told that, it was for religious fervor that it was broken, but we're told that it was for money. When, it is very obvious that after the 6th or the 7th time, Somnath was virtually reduced to a very shallow former glory of itself, and had virtually little to no money left when compared to what it had in the first or the second invasion. And as you said, most works that you have, your works, Dr. Sampath's works, all of them are relegated to the tag of alternate history rather than the mainstream history that we are taught, especially at the higher levels. In that circumstance, uh, firstly, how can we mainstream it? I know that you've said that the government needs to work on it, but we see that, I mean, NCRT has made some changes. Do you view them as legitimate changes that will change discourse over time? Or are they puny changes that are done because of political appeasement or political gains or something? So, where does the government come in? And how do we mainstream it? How do we teach this alternate history to our generation, to my generation?
Yeah, Aditya, I'll have a problem if the government comes into that. I personally believe that wherever government gets into anything, that first thing comes is inefficiency and corruption. And all the mediocres take the place. I'm sorry, I've been very closely, and through my family, everything, I've seen how they work. I don't want government to do that. And that's very non-Indic way of functioning. Our functioning was, our temples would do things, individuals would do on their own. Government job is to do just that. Yeah, road bana do, security de do, injustice nahi hone do, dharma, uphold dharma. That's it. So I don't want government. The problem is government comes. Now also, it's not that the government doesn't have has the highest academia body. They control it. But they're not getting the right people. Are people like, Cornell else placed anywhere? Tell me. They're still walking around. I meet, he must be in India right now. Is he involved in any academic body? Does people don't know that, he has done so much? So we all know the truth. We don't want to do that. But then that's a very harsh truth. This will like, everything is bad. Everything is not bad. Things are improving. It's not improving the way we should have expected it to go. So how we can do it? My thing is, institutionally, I think we have to work together in that way at our level. right now what we are doing, some people are trying to make something like Vikram has created something on history, some institute, this thing. I think we need to get together on a bigger scale. Some more people should come together and try to really build up another alternative ecosystem, and really, try to dominate it. This won't be easy. Trust me, it won't be easy. Easiest way is to get the government. What leftists did in 96 after in the late 1960s and 70s. They convinced Indira Gandhi and completely captured it within overnight. It was a coup of a Himalayan proportion, because and that's the easiest way. वो हो जाए तो और अच्छा है. But my point is, with government comes politics, corruption, and many other things. The long term will be, let that ecosystem where people come together, you, me, everyone, all the big ones. There are now influential people. And they should leave out their own, personal egos or whatever, and try for a bigger cause, or for a cause which they are working on the individual. This thing that will be, I think, the ideal way. It's happening again. It's happening. My only thing is it's happening very slowly, and it might take some more time. And what if in between some electoral reverses happens? The other side will do in overnight. They will not wait कि अच्छा ठीक है एक कमिटी बैठाते हैं वो फिर देखेगी क्या क्या एनसीईआरटी में चेंजेस हुए. They will overnight bring back the textbook of 2004. Take it from me within 10 days. So we are back to square one. So my point is we have to build up that. We have to create a generation of young students now already believing that, okay, Aryan didn't come from outside. We have still not managed to do that. We have to from there, if they are convinced in the schools and everything, then we have won the battles. Then nothing can change us. Unfortunately, we have not won that war.
So, I mean, I see what you're saying. Savarkar, for example, was included in the course for a certain state. Electoral reversal happens within a week. Savarkar's removed from the syllabus again.
Aditya, you're getting me wrong. See, putting Savarkar or putting, one is just cosmetic changes. Where it's called, it's like giving gift. अच्छा ठीक है, तो बुरा लग रहा, चलो डाल देते नाम, आदित्य खुश हो जाएगी. My point is, real changes. See, real change, fundamental changes are what, like, why Aryan invasions, less migration theory is so important? Because this completely overturns the history of this country. It says that everyone is immigrant. So please, Vedic people, you came just 2000 years back, but Muslims and invaders and Europeans, they all came later. It's just that आप 2000 साल पहले आ गए, ये 2000 साल बाद आए. So this country doesn't belong to you. This country belongs to you as much as it belongs to the Europeans and the Muslim invaders and all these people. So that is the idea. We have to just fight that idea and say that no, this land belongs to who, and in that way I'm saying we have to change the very nature of our historiography that way.
Agreed. I mean, this is a very trivial example in terms of how politics sees history, I think, in terms of vote banks and appeasement. My larger question was, do you see temples as, they used to be financial institutions and learning hubs as well. They used to be the space where a lot of gurukuls would function. Do you see that happening again, or do you see that it is important to getting us building our ecosystem that you talked about?
See, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's where the real trick of lies. We have a government. We have a Sanatan friendly government for the last 10 years. Are our Hindu temple freed still? They're not freed. They should be freed now. And everyone on that logic will believe that if you are freeing the religious institution of other religions, please free temples also. I'm not sure that Hindus are capable enough to run their own temples. You know what, Shai Deepak writes in book that, it feels as if, the Hindus are incompetent, corrupt, and all this, they can't run their institution. I'm sure they can run. We all are good enough. But they don't want to do that. Partly it's also our fault. See, we don't ask. We are almost 80% population. And we are very happy getting 2,100 rupees from Kejriwal and some 4 kg rice from this government and from something from BJP. We are very happy about that. Look what we did in Delhi. And my house is also Delhi. I realized for the last 10 years there is no work being done, nothing. Because you bartered your entire this thing for for free electricity, free water, and in water what you get, you do water which you can't drink. So my point is ultimately it buck stops at our door. And we have kind of, we as a society, and here's the role of our leaders, whether it's spiritual leaders, our political leaders, our social leaders, is even more. Our intellectual leaders is more, but they also never ask that. You have to create society for that. Whenever there was a problem, understand, you look history, when South was invaded by Tughlaqs, suddenly, the movement came up. A Hindu guru rises up, and he creates an empire called, Vijayanagar Empire, which for almost next 300 years saved South India. Today, South India has temples precisely because there was this Vijayanagar Empire. And Vijayanagar Empire came from purely from the vision of a sadhu. Same with Marathas. We admire Shivaji. He's one of our greatest heroes. And it's something what he could see, like his role in the creation of Navy, amazing. He's amazing strategy. But behind him was who? His mother and his guru. So my point is, we always had this society where someone would come up and create. Look, for instance, in North India, you can't have temples because they were always it was easy to destroy because they were closer to Mughals and Sultanate rulers. So now there comes up Tulsidas with Ramcharitmanas. They took it, destroy my temple. हम Ramcharitmanas पढ़ के अपना काम चला लेंगे. And we created Bhakti movement where, we don't need anything. So that's why you find in North India, you find Ram Leelas and everything. Okay, you don't need, we don't need murtis also. Aditya can become Lakshman, I can become Ram, and somebody else can become Sita, and someone can find some Ravan, and we can play around. Now, you have to kill individual for that. So this is the novelty of our Sanatan tradition also, that we also kind of evolved ourselves with that. But the larger question still remains that it's high time that when we now get our temples freed from the state control. Till the time we don't do that, it won't be. See, it's good to have corridors here, there, everywhere. Again, it's like, getting Maharana Pratap's name inserted in a textbook, getting Shivaji's name inserted, getting Ahom's one line, oh, great kingdom. It's like that. But yeah, let free the temple. And then see that the thousand of corridors will come on its own. It will happen automatically. The society will do on its own. Yeah, oversee that there corruption happens. Just see that. I'm not saying that. The state has its role. But if you're not controlling other people, if you're not seeing what other people are doing, why are you doing Hindus? Because Hindus are not doing anything. They know that say kuch bolenge nahi bhai. Inko chawal dal de do, thoda sa free bijli de do, they'll be happily doing it. And I don't blame that. Some of them are very poor also. But yeah, I think we need to first free our temples, and then I think the real revolution in that way start. The dharmanomics, as the people call it now, and that's the very critical part of that.
So, like wrapping up, I want to ask you one question. Like, we are on, let's say, this side of the discourse. We are on the side of the discourse where we take things for what they are. How does one translate it to someone who's, let's say, still stuck in the middle, who's still confused, or someone who's, let's say, in the far left? How does one like bring them, or how does agar koi pad raha hai, like how do we make sure that if we are reading something, let's say if someone is picking up a William Dalrymple today, how does one actually figure out कि अच्छा नहीं ये सही है या नहीं है because of because of the marketing of it, let's say.
See, people will mostly what is best. Everyone. You have to be very clear. Like in Twitter, I never respond because I know that Twitter, most people who have come, they've already decided they are there to teach other people. They all are ready to teach each other. No one is going to try to चलो उत्पल ने book लिखा तो उसने 10 किताब तो पढ़ी होगी, कुछ सीख लेता नहीं. He will teach me. So I say, okay, भाई, बोल दिया, चलो जाओ. My point is we have to go to the youngest, and that's where I think our education system, our school textbooks need to be changed. That's where people learn. You see, at this age, only those people who really want to know, those eager people. Like I first read Rumina Thapas of the world and R.S. Sharma of the world and all these people, and then I switched to here. Because I was lucky enough, I had a father who got me, all these Voice of India books. One day I said, I want to read them. So I was lucky enough to get that. Because generally, Voice of India books, it's not as available. Now, thanks to social media, people are knowing more about that, but I'm talking about in early mid-90s. So once it becomes fashionable, once we reach that school level, we make it available there. And then also we kind of make it like institutionally we crunch it. We kind of dismantle the hold which left has. We will do that. Some people will always oppose. It's good to have different viewpoints. I'm absolutely fine with that. And I'm on the Vajpayee side when he said, if you have a problem with my book, write another book. Please. And it's good to have different voices. Let there be no complacency about ideas and ideologies. But the thing is, we have to get this dominant position. Still, they have got the dominant position. I'm saying, look how they still get most of the awards. BJP, current government puts in most of their people in all the cultural centers and educational centers. But even when it comes to selecting the awards, you get still those same old people are getting awards, because ultimately the board they set up, the same old people are still there. So it's a very complicated way in that way. But I think we have to reach to the young people first. We have to change. That's where the change will happen. After say there's 20 years or 18 years or so, then people will find their own way, especially today's social media. And if they're interested, they'll find the way. It's very difficult to change after that point of some. I mean, so I think we have to really target the young.
Yes, sir. Because so like even for the book launch today for Rajiv sir's book, I saw a lot of youngsters in the crowd, and most of them had the same thing, that we are being taught one thing in our institutions, and we're not okay. So I mean, yes, it's also good that एक uprising खुद ही से अंदर से आ रही है. So like it's all about having the clarity कि जो आपको स्कूल में पढ़ा रहे हैं, या तो वो सिर्फ मार्क्स के लिए लिखो, and like like know your इतिहास otherwise also. Or
It's tough for them.
understand.
It's really tough for kids to do, but they're doing it.
Yes,
So it's
some
hats
of
off
them
to
are
them.
actually.
No, I've seen some of the crowds coming for I went to a couple of the Sai Deepak's events and everything. I see young crowds coming in large numbers, and it's happening. You know why? It's not just books. See, that's where the trick is. Sai Deepak is also a very good speaker, so his speaking helps. So I will not
Yes.
just give his books the credit. It's also his speaking, and those people come out that problem is there might be many good writers who might not be speaking that well. So how will they reach out? So when it's a thing which we'll have to find out. We have to think together, do that. But good thing is that things are already changing, as you said. Young kids are coming, and I see a lot. Like if I go to colleges quite often, so I see young students really now. They understand. See, most importantly, they're very now they're proud of their identity. They're proud of who they are. They're proud of this culture. The sense of apologia has kind of gone, which is really good. After that, I think there's only hope. It's a matter of time where this leftist this superstructure will be dismantled. So it will happen.
Huh, true. I mean, there were colleges where now kids have started forming Hindu societies apne usme. So that is like a very good thing. So, sir, it's been lovely talking with you, interacting with you, and you have been very kind. You've given us like almost 1 hour of your time, and you've answered everything. We want to have longer conversations with you. Maybe we'll have them face to face, and we'll put those out. And we are looking for your book launch in Delhi. I would love to be a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I have to do something. So I'll keep you guys posted. But I'm so grateful you invited me. I really loved chatting with you. Thank you very much.
Ji,
So,
thank you, sir.
a final conclusion. Um, I mean, Dr. Anand Ranganathan sort of said this already, that leftists have lost power today. And so they see that within the next 5, 7, 10 years, maybe that they'll not win. And so their investment is going within our children and the younger generation. And so we have to be careful about knowing our history, knowing it well, so that when we are presented with something that is distorted, we know how to correct it. Um, Two very beautiful quotes that I again and again repeat on our channel come to mind. One is from George Orwell, who says, "The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it." And this has happened time and time again with our great historians, and even happens today. So we have to make sure that does not happen. And being one of the only civilizations that has survived the test of time, we must remember Milan Kundera when he says that the first step in liquidating a people is to erase its memory, to destroy its books, its culture, and its history. So we must not let that happen. We thank you so much, sir, for not having just been here, but for having written such a wonderful collection of history within your book. Uh, Thank you so much. And to
Thank
our
you.
readers, thank you so much for joining us. We hopefully will see you next week.
Thank you.
And do
Thank you.
go and get your copies. And whenever Utpal sir is in your city, do make sure that you attend the book launch also and get them
Thank you.
signed.
But truly indebted.
Thank you, sir.